All right, so let's get right into it. We live in an age where AI can read an entire book and spit out a summary in, what, seconds? It makes you wonder, right? Why should any of us bother to read anymore? I mean, seriously, why would you spend hours, maybe even days, slogging through some dense book when a large language model can just hand you the highlights in a flash? It feels like the ultimate life hack, but it's a shortcut that might have a hidden cost. And that's what we need to unpack. So, as you can imagine, this whole question has kicked off a massive debate, and it's basically split the world into two very different camps. Let's take a look at what each side is arguing. Okay, so on one side, you've got Team Pessimist. They're worried that we're outsourcing our thinking and that our mental muscles for deep work are just atrophying. But on the other side, you have Team Optimist. They don't see AI as a replacement at all. For them, it's an incredible partner, a tool that can help us learn faster and tackle ideas we just couldn't grasp on our own. Now, the pessimists, people like neuroscientist Marianne Wolf, they've got some data to back this up. They argue our brains are literally being rewired for skimming, not for deep critical thought. And get this, a recent study found that people who relied on AI summaries actually built a weaker, less creative understanding of the material. So yeah, that's a pretty big red flag. But then, the optimists come back with a really compelling argument. You have super prolific readers like the economist Tyler Cowen, who now use AI as a kind of reading companion. It turns the monologue of a book into a dialogue. They argue that AI is raising the floor, making complex knowledge available to way more people, and letting the rest of us push the ceiling of what we're even capable of understanding. Both sides make some really good points, don't they? But what if this entire debate is built on, well, a pretty shaky foundation? What if they're arguing about something without ever defining the single most important word in the whole conversation? And this, right here, is the absolute crux of it. We can't know if a shortcut is helping or hurting us if we don't have a clear standard for what it means to genuinely know something. Think about it. When answers are cheap, when they're instant, our very definition of knowing has to change. And this is where the philosopher David Deutsch gives us a brilliant standard. He says real knowledge isn't about just receiving information. It's about being able to regenerate it. Can you explain the idea from scratch in your own words? Can you spot a mistake in someone else's explanation? Can you apply it to a totally new problem? If you can't, you don't really know it. You just have what he calls cached output. It's like a stored answer you can repeat, but you can't really think with it. To really get our heads around this, we can actually borrow a fantastic analogy from the world of AI itself. And this comes from one of the top minds in the field, Andrej Karpathy. Okay, so inside any AI model, there are basically two kinds of knowledge. The first is baked into its core programming, its parameters. You can think of this as a sort of fuzzy, general understanding of the world. The second kind is the specific info you feed it for a task, right now in the context window. That's like its sharp, active working memory. And this framework, it maps perfectly to how we, as humans, know things. This is the deep stuff, the really transformative stuff. Weight layer knowledge doesn't just add a new fact to your brain. It fundamentally rewires your whole perspective. It actually changes your mental models and influences how you see and interpret everything from that point on. We're talking about real structural change here. And then there's this, the practical stuff. Context window knowledge is all about the specific data you need for a task at hand. A name, a date, a formula. It's super useful, and it's exactly the kind of thing that AI makes ridiculously easy to just look up. The key is, you need both, but they are absolutely not the same thing. Let me give you an example. We still make students learn calculus, even though calculators exist. Why do we do that? Because struggling through those proofs, it builds mathematical intuition. That's weight layer knowledge. The calculator, it just handles the specific calculation. That's the context window work. Or how about navigation? Following turn-by-turn GPS directions will definitely get you where you need to go. That's context. But it will never help you build a mental map of the city. To do that, you've got to do the harder work of actually looking at a map, which builds a weight layer understanding of the whole area. This even applies to physical skill. So on a motorcycle, electronic aids like traction control are amazing. They provide a context window safety net that makes new riders way safer, but they don't create experts. The best riders in the world rely on a deep, intuitive feel for the machine, and that is a weight layer skill that no technology can just give you. So you see, the debate isn't really books versus AI. That's just the wrong way to frame it. The real question is about choosing the right tool for the right job. A book isn't some sacred object we have to worship. It's a piece of technology. It's a mediator. It's one possible bridge between an idea and your mind. The author has structured their thoughts in a certain way to help you build understanding. But it's not the only way. An AI can be a mediator too. So how do you actually combine these things? Well, Andrej Karpathy has this brilliant three-step method. First, he does the manual read himself. He engages with the text. Then, he asks an LLM to explain and summarize what he just read to solidify his understanding. And finally, and this is the key part, he uses the AI to drill him with questions, to probe the parts he didn't fully get. He's using AI to force himself to reconstruct the knowledge, not to avoid it. So the whole point is this. Your goal, always, should be to regenerate the knowledge in your own mind. And sometimes, yeah, a book is the best tool for that. But other times, if a book is way too dense, or maybe even too basic for you, an AI mediator might actually be better. And a lot of the time, the best approach is using both together. So every single time you decide to take a shortcut, every time you reach for a summary, you're making a bet. And you need to be very clear about what exactly you're betting on. Look, reading is consumption, but learning, real learning, is reconstruction. You have to do the work yourself. It's that simple. You don't build muscle by watching someone else lift weights, and you don't build understanding by just consuming a summary. The mental heavy lifting, that has to happen inside your own head. So, before you skip that book, just ask yourself two simple questions. First, am I trying to learn a simple fact, context window knowledge, or am I trying to learn something that could actually change how I think, weight layer knowledge? And second, be honest with yourself. Am I choosing this shortcut because it's a better tool for reconstruction, or am I choosing it just because reconstruction is hard work?
Ultimately, deep understanding isn't going anywhere. Not because books are sacred, but because some knowledge has to change you from the inside out. And the only way for that to happen is for you to rebuild it piece by piece in your own mind. No shortcut can do that for you, but the right tools, used the right way, can make sure you don't have to do it alone.